Okay, so imagine this. You're scrolling through your feed and you see a post from a friend. Maybe it's like a funny meme or like a life update, but then later on you find out it wasn't actually them. It was like an AI
Yeah.
designed to act just like them. And that's kind of the world we're stepping into today with this deep dive into AI profiles on social media.
Right.
You shared some really interesting articles about this, and we're going to explore the potential impacts, like the good and well, let's just say ethically questionable.
Yeah, and the thing is, this isn't sci-fi anymore. Meta, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, they're already like rolling out these AI-generated users.
Wow.
And they're not just like messing around here. They're aiming to actually boost user engagement and like create new ways for people to be entertained. These AI profiles are designed to have bios and profile pictures. They can even create content.
It's like they're trying to create a digital twin for everyone,
Exactly.
but it's already causing some controversy. Didn't Meta have to delete some of these AI profiles?
Yeah, they did some of these AI personas. They kind of went off the rails and ended up saying things that were,
Oh, no.
well, let's just say not aligned with Meta's community standards. It shows you how complex this is getting. Even the creators are struggling to control their creations.
Ah, that's wild.
Yeah.
And that leads us right into like the heart of the ethical concerns. One of the articles you shared talked about the potential for like hyper-personalized misinformation.
Right.
Imagine an AI mimicking your friend's writing style,
Yeah.
but instead of sharing like a harmless joke, it's spreading like targeted disinformation designed to play on your specific beliefs. That's kind of scary.
Oh, that's a chilling thought, isn't it? It's like weaponizing trust.
Yeah.
We already know algorithms are shaping our online experience, but now they're creating content interacting with us directly. Like, how do we even begin to address that? So,
How do we even know who or what we're really interacting with online? It feels like we're going to need a digital decoder ring just to tell who's real and who's an algorithm.
that's right. The authenticity question is huge. Even with labels, can we really trust anything we see online anymore?
Right.
One article suggested using blockchain technology to verify human profiles. It's a complex solution, but it highlights the need for radical transparency in this new digital world.
So we're talking about something like a digital fingerprint that proves you're a real person? And that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what it takes.
Yeah.
What happens to trust and relationships in a world where you can't be sure who's on the other side of the screen?
Well, that's the crux of it, isn't it? This erosion of trust could be incredibly damaging. Some experts argue that it could lead to a decline in empathy, making us less inclined to value real human relationships.
It's almost like we're running an experiment on ourselves, but we don't know what the long-term consequences will be.
Right.
And it's not just about fake news and catfishing, right? This idea of dehumanization keeps popping up in the articles.
Yet dehumanization happens when we start seeing other people as less than human. And in this context, over-reliance on AI interaction could make us see real people as flawed and less desirable, ultimately impacting our empathy and ability to connect. Think about it. If you're used to interacting with a perfectly understanding AI, how patient are you going to be with a real person who has bad days, makes mistakes, and maybe doesn't always agree with you?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And this leads us to another trend. You flagged the rise of these AI companions, or as some are calling them, AI girlfriends and boyfriends.
Right.
It's one thing to have an AI assistant helping you with your schedule, but an AI designed to provide companionship, that takes things to a whole other level.
It does. And while it might seem harmless on the surface, there are some serious red flags here, particularly for younger generations.
Yeah.
Imagine growing up in a world where these AI companions are commonplace. What does that do to your expectations for real relationships?
It's like we're creating a generation that's more comfortable talking to a chatbot than having an awkward first date. I mean, awkward first dates are part of the human experience, right? Do we want to lose that?
That's a good question. And it's not just about losing those awkward moments. There are some real concerns about the potential negative impacts of these AI companions, especially on social development.
Before we get into those impacts, I just want to touch on something that really struck me. In the research, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, one of the pioneers of the internet as we know it, has expressed serious concerns about AI companions.
He has, and he's particularly worried about their potential to exacerbate loneliness, especially among young men. That's a pretty sobering thought coming from someone like him.
It makes you wonder, are we creating solutions that are actually making the problem worse? Okay, so let's talk about those potential negative impacts. One of the biggest ones that keeps coming up is social isolation.
It's a valid concern. If people are spending increasing amounts of time interacting with these AI companions, it could discourage them from putting in the effort to build real-life relationships. And without those real-world interactions, crucial social skills just won't develop.
So it's not just about the time spent with the AI, it's about the missed opportunities for real human interaction. It's like practicing for a sport. If you never play against a real opponent, you'll never truly develop your skills.
Exactly. It's about learning to navigate the complexities of human interaction,
Mhm.
with all its messiness and unpredictability. And that brings us to another concern, the issue of unrealistic expectations.
Right, because these AI companions are designed to be, well, perfect.
Exactly.
They're always available, always supportive, always validating. They never have a bad day or disagree with you.
And that's where the danger lies. These perfect AI companions could set the bar like impossibly high for real human relationships, making real people seem flawed and less desirable by comparison.
It's like trying to compete with a photoshopped Instagram model. You're never going to measure up. But even more concerning is this idea of emotional dependency.
You're picking up on a crucial point here. Users could become so reliant on these AI companions for emotional support that they struggle to form healthy attachments with real people. It's as though they're outsourcing their emotional needs to a machine.
And we know this isn't just a hypothetical concern. One of the articles you sent mentioned a case study of a teenager with autism who became so attached to a chatbot that it started to negatively impact his relationships with his family and friends.
It's a heartbreaking example of how these technologies, while potentially beneficial in some ways, can also have unintended consequences, especially for individuals who might have difficulty distinguishing between virtual and real-world interactions.
Yeah.
It raises questions about accessibility and responsible design.
It seems like there's this constant tension between the potential benefits and the potential harms of AI. So where do we go from here? Do we just throw our hands up and say, well, the robots are coming and there's nothing we can do about it?
Absolutely not. It's crucial that we acknowledge both the potential benefits and the very real concerns that AI raises. We need to have open and honest conversations about these technologies, weigh the risks and benefits, and establish safeguards.
One of the articles actually proposed a pretty radical idea, separating human and AI interactions on social media.
Hmm.
It suggested creating dedicated platforms for AI agents, giving users the choice of how they want to interact. What do you think about that?
It's an intriguing concept. Having that clear distinction could help preserve the authenticity of human connection while still allowing those who want to explore AI companionship to do so safely.
It's like creating two parallel universes, one for humans and one for AI. But wouldn't that create a digital divide of sorts? What about those who enjoy interacting with AI or find it beneficial for certain purposes? Should they be excluded from the human spaces?
That's a valid point. It's not about excluding anyone, but rather about ensuring transparency and informed consent. People should know who and what they're interacting with and have the ability to choose their preferred mode of engagement.
Okay, but how do we actually implement something like that? It sounds incredibly complex. I mean, how do you even begin to separate human profiles from AI profiles on a platform as massive as Facebook?
It would certainly be a challenging undertaking, but think about it. We already have systems in place for age verification and content moderation. Building on those existing frameworks, we could potentially develop new verification protocols specifically for human users.
So we're talking about some kind of digital ID that proves you're a real person. That's pretty sci-fi, but I guess we're living in a sci-fi world now.
It might seem far-fetched, but technology is evolving rapidly. We need to be thinking ahead, anticipating the challenges, and exploring potential solutions before we're caught completely off guard.
So this idea of separating human and AI interaction, it's not a perfect solution, but it's a starting point. It at least forces us to confront the fundamental question, what do we value about human connection? What makes it unique and irreplaceable?
And how do we protect those values in a world where technology is increasingly blurring the lines between human and machine? These are questions that we all need to be grappling with, not just tech companies and policymakers, but every single one of us.
Because ultimately it's about shaping the kind of future we want to live in. Do we want a future where technology isolates us, or do we want a future where it enhances our humanity?
And that brings us back to the importance of awareness and engagement. The more informed we are about these technologies, the more empowered we are to make choices that align with our values.
It's like learning a new language. The language of AI, we need to be fluent in order to participate in the conversation and shape the direction of its development.
Exactly. We need to be able to decipher the code, understand the algorithms, and critically evaluate the information we're consuming.
because the future of human connection, at least in the digital realm, might depend on it. So much to think about here. What does all this mean for like the average person, just scrolling through their social media feeds?
Well, I think awareness is key.
Mm.
As AI becomes more integrated into our online lives, it's just crucial to be aware of its presence and its potential
Yeah.
implications. Don't just passively consume content, question what you see and think critically about who or what is behind the messages you're receiving. Are you interacting with a real person or like a carefully crafted algorithm?
Yeah, it's like we need a whole new set of digital literacy skills, right? It's
Yeah.
not enough to know how to use the platforms we need to be like savvy consumers of information, able to discern fact from fiction, human from machine.
Absolutely. And it's not just about spotting fake news or deepfakes. It's about understanding how these AI systems are shaping our perceptions, our beliefs, even our emotions.
Yeah, and these articles really highlight that this isn't like some abstract future problem. This is happening right now.
Right.
Companies like Meta, they're actively shaping the landscape of social media, and AI is a big part of their strategy.
And as with any new technology, there are going to be challenges, ethical dilemmas, and unintended consequences. It's important to remember that these technologies are tools. And like any tool, they can be used for good or for ill. It all depends on how we choose to wield them.
It's almost like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier. We can see the potential for amazing things, but there are also unknown dangers lurking in the shadows.
That's a great analogy. And just like the early explorers, we need to proceed with both curiosity and caution. We need to be mindful of the risks, but also open to the possibilities.
One thing that keeps coming back to me is this question of responsibility. Who's ultimately responsible for ensuring that these technologies are used ethically and responsibly? Is it the tech companies? Is it the government? Is it us, the users?
It's a shared responsibility.
Mm.
Tech companies have an obligation to develop these technologies with ethical considerations in mind, to be transparent about their capabilities and limitations, and to provide users with meaningful control over their data and their online experience.
But we, the users, also have a role to play, right?
We need to be informed, engaged, and vocal about our concerns. We need to demand transparency and accountability from the companies that are shaping our digital world.
Precisely. We need to push for regulations that protect our privacy and our autonomy. We need to support organizations that are working to promote ethical AI development and use. And we need to have these conversations not just amongst ourselves, but with our friends, our families, our communities.
Because this isn't just a tech issue, it's a human issue. It's about the kind of world we want to live in, the kind of relationships we want to have, the kind of society we want to create.
Well said. And perhaps as we wrap up this deep dive, a final thought to leave you with. What role do you want AI to play in your life? How do you envision the future of connection in a world where the lines between human and machine are becoming increasingly blurred? There are no easy answers, but the first step is to start asking the questions.